Osia, the new deputy majority leader, Kweku Ricket Hagan, on the MP for Cape Coast South constituency, or the Sembia to Jaffa Afenyo Markin. Young him said, Nancy Afenyo Markin has been misbehaving our parliament and even on TV and like, vetting committee, he has been misbehaving. No, and a Kweku Ricket Hagan, our MP, a copy more radio good. Or did and send me to just say, and this is for supporters will be Ankana command to them. And Chakurano, they would deal with Afenyo Markin as he deserve. And to me, say, Obiamra, women call and Sama, a honorable Kweku Ricket Hagan,
what happened in Parliament and appointment committee, actually, not the whole, Parliament, was something that I thought I would never see again. It was quite disgraceful because obviously when the speaker was being elected the first time, we had a similar, incident. But I think what happened this time around was much more serious than that. In that parliament where the speaker was elected, it was clear that the type of parliament that Ghanaians gave us, more or less a hung parliament, was going to have its challenges, like the one we saw. So in the 8th parliament, certain things happened that was like a new terrain for all of us. Now, in this 9th parliament, it has started in quite a strange way, where we have the supermajority, as they call it, and the other side is the micro minority, as they sometimes don't want to admit. They've added mighty to the micro. And it's not something that any member of parliament should actually be proud of. I think we owe Ghanaians a sincere apology, and we cannot apologize enough. It was a disgraceful act. I mean, despicable. You really don't, you run short of words to describe such a behavior by supposedly honorable members of parliament. You earn to become an honorable member by your constituent voting you to office as to represent them as honorable. But there's a second thing altogether, staying there as honorable. And that is based on your character, your behavior, your performance, and so many other things that the Ghanaians expect you and your constituent. What we did there, and we are supposed to, parliament, every parliament in the world, is supposed to be the symbol of democracy. Without parliament, and then I'm not a lawyer, I have a lawyer here. Without parliament, you actually don't have a democracy. Because you can have the executive arm of, judiciary, but you need the parliament to make it a complete democracy. So we are supposed to be the ones to show the way. And what we did there is unacceptable and really inexcusable. Because what led to that, I still can't understand it. I'm a vice chairman of the appointment committee, but the fact that I'm now a deputy majority leader. But I didn't actually get there on the committee from the beginning. Because if you remember, Honorable Atuforson and that team left somewhere in the middle. I mean, they became majority leaders and then stayed for a while until, they were appointed and vetted. So I joined as a full member of the committee the day that the gentleman, the activist, is it Vomawo, was invited, to come. But previously, when I was told that that would be the position that I'm likely to occupy, and I knew that it comes automatically that I will be the vice chair of the appointment committee, I actually started attending some of the appointment committee meetings. So you will see me that I'll be sitting at the back, not at the table, just observing. And I was horrified by some of the observations that I saw. So I kept asking, I mean, why will this person do this? So we have actually agreed to it. It's something that has been a convention. I said, what sort of convention is this? That a minority leader can talk forever. I mean, for how many days are we, if this guy chooses to speak all day? And I find that completely unacceptable, not in anywhere in the world. You wouldn't even expect being on a committee where you have the president of the republic, if he's on there, to speak forever. I mean, meetings are time constrained. Vetting are time constrained. Interviews, which this was, we call it vetting, are time constrained. Therefore, time should be allocated to members. It doesn't matter who you are. And then they talk about, you know, if you go to 1990, this, as a 1996 or something, J.H. Mensah, you go to 2000, Bagman did same. And I said, so what? I mean, what was done before? The reason why we learn history is for us to be able to change certain things that didn't work. And we have moved from there, you know, from in this Fourth Republic, we've moved from, you know, various, from 1 to 9 now. And we had not changed our standing orders for over 20 years, about 24 years or something. The last time was 2000. And we had to change it. Why did we change it? Because there were certain things that we felt needed to change. We cannot continue as usual and said, this person did that. What was the parliament at the time? That led to Bagman talking for whatever time they said he did, or J.H. Mensah. Things have changed. And we've got to change with the times. So, to fast forward, I joined the committee. And then the first act was to listen to this gentleman who had been invited. I mean, I asked, because I had a problem with that to start off with, that if somebody had done something, you know, to the contempt of parliament, ideally it goes to the privileges committee. And I served in the privileges committee as a ranking member. So I have a fair idea what the procedure is. But then, of course, we still haven't had our committees in place because of some challenges that we are facing. So, in the wisdom of the chairman, he thought that this was an urgent matter that affects the credibility of the committee, and therefore needed to deal with that issue for us to be able to continue, because this was a corruption allegation that, if not cured, might create a problem that what we are doing, you know, is not really done in a way, we are not credible. So I agreed to that, since we didn't have any option at that time to deal with it, and the vetting needed to go on. I mean, the president has said, I will appoint my ministers, cabinet ministers, in 2 weeks when I'm in. He had given us the names, and our job is to make sure that the president succeed in what he had promised Ghanaians, and that is to do the vetting. But I tell you what led to this? Vetting is not a rocket science. Planning to vet is not a rocket science. Names have been given to you. You have to plan, have a pre-meeting, plan a timetable, agree on how many number of people you are going to take in a day, because you had this number of people, you know, 42 people or something. Both sides come together in a meeting like we're doing now and agree. And that's what happened. A timetable was drawn. I must be honest that we did put a bit of pressure on ourselves on the timetable that we put together. Because when I looked at the number of names on the list, and as I said, when I got there, some vetting had already taken place, that of Honorable Atufosun, Honorable Amokofi-Boa, and others had taken place. And that was a timetable. And my understanding is that it had been agreed. I subsequently attended the meetings. If there were any changes, people have been written to, these are the nominees, to bring their families. People are coming as far as north and other places, chiefs and that. I mean, those of us who've been to, and former minister here, who've been to vetings and all that, everyone wants to attend your vetting. Even you, I mean, some people will come without your knowledge. You wouldn't bring them. Yeah. And they are there. But once they are there, they are your responsibility. What they will eat, where they will sleep. So if you are not able to maintain or keep to the time, and people have to sleep over and whatever, that's going to come at an enormous cost. So these are big chiefs from your place. How you treat them as you brought them to Accra itself, you have to be very careful. That could be your last election. So all these things had happened. And I tell you what, the management, and I think we'll get it better this time around, the management of the whole thing was not good. Because the whole parliament became a security, situation, threat. Because you have people walking all over the place that nobody knew. And the assumption is that they had all come to support one candidate or the other. So these timetables were done. I mean, I think one of the problems that threw us completely out of gear was the idea that a minority leader had a limitless time to talk. So if we are programmed to do 4 even a day, and by 4, if you say you want to do 3 hours per each candidate, that's going to take you 12 hours. That's not including, breaks and lunch and all that. And that's a full day. But if you have someone who himself talks for 3 hours on one particular nominee, it means he alone exhausts the whole time that others. So you realize that, and so when I saw that, I realized that, look, something needed to be done. I'm somebody who doesn't speak much when it comes to these things. I only look at the important issues. But the few times I spoke, I tried to speak a bit at length. And the reason was, especially when I was doing Honorable Okujoto Ablakwa, because I realized that the way the opposition or the minority were behaving, we were not getting any say in the whole thing. The guys take all the time, and by the time it gets to us, and it's our job to make sure the president nominee goes through. So we are not going to spend the same amount of time to scrutinize the person, especially somebody we had known, we sit in parliament with them. And the basis of becoming a minister is to qualify to be a member of parliament. So I would have thought, if that is the case, then the vetting for a member of parliament should be halved. Because if you are not a member of parliament, you can still be a minister, but you must first qualify to be a parliamentarian. So then you are going to be scrutinized whether you qualify to be a member of parliament. That's one phase. Before we look at the character and other things that needed to, skills, competence, and other things that needed to be looked at. So, if you are a member of parliament, then first half should be ticked. If you want to go back there, then somebody did not do their work well for you to become a member of parliament. And therefore, that is why you see that leaders of the House or member of parliament vetting in the past have been shorter than maybe others who are not members of parliament. But the whole thing was all over the place. It doesn't matter where you are coming from, whether you are from parliament or whatever. Some questions, look, this vetting, and as we have called it vetting, it's part of a process of confirming a president or approving a president nominee. So basically, it's an interview. Just like any other interview. Trying to find out whether somebody has the skill set, the competence, the character, and what have you, to become a minister of state. Some questions that were asked were actually unnecessary questions. And they will tell, somebody will tell you, oh, they are necessary. You are appointing somebody to this high office, you need to know this, you need to know their, yeah, of course, background, experience, skills. But certain questions were unwarranted. And at some stage, it looked more like a criminal trial than actually a vetting of somebody to become a minister of state. And the questions that a minority leader asks, you would maybe at the beginning get interested. As you see in criminal court, you think the guy is leading somewhere by the questions he's asking. As I said, I'm not a lawyer. So you are intrigued. You want to know where this guy is going with this. Something is going to. The guy has asked a question that somebody was not born in Udumasi or whatever. So what information has he got? And it ends at nothing. So I don't know if you look at things on the internet, like the likes of TikTok and things like I do sometimes. You realize that Chinese have movies that when they started, it's quite interesting. You follow it, you want to see at the end, somewhere they stop it and they say you need to subscribe or something. And you get upset. That's what happened. Everything Honorable Afenyo took didn't end anywhere. A brick wall. And then he starts a new one. And he was taking all the time. I, at one meeting, questioned him that, look, it is what you're doing that is not done anywhere. You cannot talk for. And then he told me that he's going to, it's been done in the past, so he's going to follow suit. So, a lot of things that happen as a result of what he did and some of his members did, and threw our whole timetable out of gear. So when we had said we were going to do 3 or 4 people, you realize that by evening we are not even there. You are done only 2 people or whatever. So we had that problem, and that basically sort of distorted everything that we were doing, and that confusion set in. Then after we had agreed something, they will come and say, oh, yes, we did say we'll do Honorable Akando, but we'll change our mind. We are tired. We are going to. Why are we tired? Because one man had taken 3 hours to ask questions. Why wouldn't you be tired? And the same man who are taking, the honorable gentleman who are taking that time to talk, is the one saying we are tired. Why wouldn't you be tired if you talk for 3 hours on one person? You see, so I just couldn't get the thinking of the whole thing, and I just couldn't get the complaints they were making that you caused a problem, and then now you are the one using the problem to create another problem. So it was not that we couldn't plan well in the timetable, at least the ones I got involved, but it's because we were thrown out of gear because of these acts and there were some of the members on the other side, the MPP side, who took a clue from what he was doing and also decided to also expand their questions. And some of them were first timers. And this idea that they bring people, they say they are subject matter people, you know, and they bring people, subject matter ideally should have been people from the committees. So if they inviting a finance minister, we expect the finance committee and other people to be there. Because we had people on committees based on their background and experience and knowledge. So that's the easiest pool to bring. But we didn't have that. So all of a sudden, everybody who had an interest in a nominee becomes a subject matter. And the subject matter was supposed to be 2 people. But at one stage, I was chairing when the chairman, goes out for a little break or something. And they had submitted 4 names for subject matter. And I said, well, the subject matter is supposed to be 2. Then they said, oh, okay, then take this name and put it as second. Then I'll put it there and I will put a line under. Then they will come back and say, no, now take the first one and put. So I don't know what subject those people were there to address. So the confusion or the problems were actually created on the minority side. Now, if you want to blame the majority, and we have to be critical of ourselves and not say that we did everything 100%, is that we could not put our foot down. I mean, Ghanaians voted for us with this massive majority for us to do something. And I don't challenge people who are criticizing that we look like the minority. Maybe we haven't come out of the minority to majority, and the minority, they haven't come out from having lost an election to minority. But I'm sure that it won't take long. You know, things will iron itself out, and we'll see who the real majority is. Some concessions that we made with them, again, also before I arrived on the committee, was that, you know, conventionally, when a minister knows this, when a minister is nominated, there's supposed to be a memoranda advertised for 21 days or something, minimum 14 days. But then, of course, in our own trying to hurry and meet the president staff, we negotiated with the minority that, look, instead of doing this, we say we are masters of our own rules. I mean, I've been in the house for 12 years. I'm still yet to understand what that means. You know, masters of our own rules. So we're going to, you know, basically cut the time short and do the vetting as quickly as we get the nominees. And we had to agree with them, obviously, as a committee. And we did. So that agreement that we made with them was actually a bad one. But then I can understand why we did it, because we wanted to fast track the president and for the president to meet the cabinet, because the president promised us 2 weeks. He is giving us the list. We can't spend forever in approving when he has a majority in parliament that he is relying on to approve his nominee. So we cut this bad deal, as I call it, with the minority, and that strengthened the minority to think that now you've cut a deal with us, you need us, so that we can misbehave and do whatever we like. And we too felt that, oh, these guys have bent backwards with us. We didn't even have to sit on Monday, because Parliament sits on Tuesday. So Monday, we've called them and they've come and everything. Not knowing that they were doing all those things because they had an agenda. That, okay, we're going to use this to tell you that if we done this for you, then we too let us dance on the table. That's the, you know, and that's basically what happened. Dancing on the table. That resulted on that fateful day. So the incident of the corruption allegation also played part of the delay in terms of bringing this gentleman in for that day, which meant that that day, which I believe was a Wednesday, that's why I joined the committee fully, there was no vet. So that means that we have increased the backlog that we had already built through Honorable Afenyo's, you know, I don't know what it is, live broadcast or whatever, to other things had taken us to that position. The clerk of parliament, that Honorable Afenyo, basically went after, had not done anything wrong. He'd been the clerk of that committee for years. At a time where we've done an affirmative, you know, action, you know, laws and all that. And look at what we are encouraging people to take positions in parliament as members of parliament, clerks and other things. This is how we publicly humiliate a professional lady doing her work from a distance, not even close by. He was at one end of the table, shouting across, and this is supposed to be an honorable member who is a leader of the minority. And it was a disgrace for all of us who were all sitting down watching for this honorable gentleman to continue the drama. And what ended with that, or what the day before, these tables and I mean, when you are a chief whip, I was just thinking, and I feel sorry for my brother Roxon, because he was caught in the middle of things. Of course, chief whips, they have their own way of, you know, so he thought he should also go there, and you could clearly see that they were actually holding his smoke that he was wearing, and obviously throwing his hands around. Many people threw their hands around. And if you look at the video from different angles, look, so many people should have been suspended. But the speaker, you know, in his wisdom and what he saw, And I thought that the investigation will bring out more people who misbehaved and were dishonorable on that day will come out and they should be punished. Then I was horrified. I mean, I usually would not get engaged in this thing, but even I was horrified. I was sitting there, it was like watching a movie. Members of parliament breaking table chairs and pushing tables and lifting it up. And we have people, children, grandchildren, all these people, they have grandchildren and all that, watching at home. Your father is going to work to make laws for the country. He entered into a boxing ring and start boxing. It was so disgraceful. I was ashamed to be a member of parliament. Because what are you going to say? When they say members of parliament, your name is included. Whatever misbehavior, whatever happens there, sometimes you become a frustrated politician when you see things that others are doing that you probably can't do anything about, but it's happening before you. What do? Go in, and even when you go in to separate and somebody hits you, you might respond as of defending yourself, and you become a culprit. You become part of the whole thing. So it's something that I think even our apologies took longer in coming. Eventually we did, because I was pushing that, look, we're going to go and apologize to Ghanaians because this is so bad. This is unacceptable. We cannot put this behavior and we continue to be called honorable members. Honorable of what? It's disgraceful, shameful, no excuse for it. Just overvetting. That's what it result to putting up a timetable together to vet. It's not a rocket science. But we got it so wrong. The minority, look, I have come to a conclusion that this minority, this current minority, in their current whatever behavior and what they are doing, it doesn't suggest to me that these guys are there to help us do any government business. And I've told my colleagues, I don't believe that. They have their own agenda. They come and then stand. You have government business. We want to help you do government business. None of it. What they are saying is opposite what they want to achieve. The optics. Look, they keep saying we are under instructions. My job is on the line. You hear them saying that. So who are those masters who are making their jobs on the line? So they have been whipped to behave a certain way and report back to their political masters who had probably keep them in leadership position or whatever. And the intention is not to help. I mean, I don't think any NDC member in parliament should actually believe that the MPP is in parliament to help President Mahama succeed with his agenda. They are looking at 2028 and they are trying to do what will put them on that path. And we, I can understand people say, oh, we are not performing, we are not this. That's actually not true. I mean, I've been on the different leadership in parliament with different styles. And then also you come to a time where it is the time that actually suggests the style of leadership. And I think times like this, I mean, you look at people say, oh, I'm a diplomat, I'm cool. Honorable Ayaraga is pretty much the same. And then, it's like you need an aggressive front. No, you don't. You don't need to be aggressive to be a leader. I don't believe that. And leadership emerge, as I said, depending on the situation. When you were in opposition, the style of leadership of the strategy should be an attacking one, obviously, because you are trying to wrestle power from people. Therefore, you have to go at them but go at them constructively. When you are in power, the attitude or leadership also has to change. Then it becomes defensive. You are to defend government. You are not to misbehave. You are not to do the same thing. No, don't play the game the others are playing. So what they did in the appointment committee, if you follow suit as majority, that is the result you're going to get. Because there will be a brawl in the place. You will get involved, showing to your base that you are the super majority. And you're going to misbehave, destroy property of government. And then we are in parliament condemning violence that is happening elsewhere. I mean, such a double. Sometimes you don't understand how people think on the position that they are, what they are there to do. There are people in leadership who have had challenges and violence in their own elections, and they have just escaped back into parliament through whatever means. Some are still being challenged. And these same people come to parliament and behave the way they are behaving. It goes to justify whatever happened in their constituencies that people, spoke against. That did they actually even get there legitimately? Or they use the same style, Rambo style to get there. And that we as majority needs to begin to advise ourselves.
Okay.
And make sure that, and I do agree with Ghanaians, and as I said, I've given you that myself and Ayaga, our approach is different. We're trying to get the parliament, the whole parliament on board and, get things done. But you see, when you try something and it's not working, you're going to change your mind. It's only a fool who doesn't change. We come to parliament, we won. President Obama said, don't misuse your majority. Okay, if you only admit that you have lost and you want to build your party back, nobody stops you from that. But we've got government business to do. Ghana is a continuous concern. Let's build the Ghana we want, and you can do your politics. But if your aim is that you're going to be disruptive of government business by putting the gentleman we have put as their minority leader, and he says everything, he has to find a way to oppose this, and so he's warm, cold. 1 minute is apologizing to the speaker and apologizing to Ghanaians. The same day, he's misbehaving again. How can you trust such a person? I have spoken to people who said to me, oh, we're going to do this and this. They get to the chamber, they do something completely different. So as far as I'm concerned, the NPP will have to really show serious signs that they are ready to support us. Other than that, as majority as we are, we should be able to advise ourselves. And the committee that has been put up by Mr. Speaker, again, the issue is about not having formed committees, and for that reason, maybe the issue should have gone to what is it called, privileges. But there are articles in the constitutions that give Mr. Speaker the power to be able to set up an ad hoc emergency, such a committee, to be able to deal with this urgent matter, and he had done so. For the other side, accepting it in the chamber and going to the committee and say they will not participate, I think, and again, I'm not a lawyer, if the constitution allows us to carry on things, Ghanaians voted 8th parliament to be a hanged parliament. They voted this one to put a daylight between the majority and the minority. Ghanaians don't get it wrong. This is what I've come to realize. They did that for a reason. We have to make it count. And that's if we have to, move from diplomacy to mid-diplomacy to get the house moving, that's what we should do. But I have come to the conclusion, and unless my friends are ready and they prove me wrong, that they are not there to do government business. Not only are they not there to do government business, but they are there to disrupt government business by any means necessary. And that's where we are.
Thank you.